What if I told you that most of your suffering is not coming from your problems, but from your thoughts about your problems? Think about that for a moment. The thing keeping you awake at night may not be the situation itself. It may be the endless mental conversation happening inside your head, the constant replaying of old mistakes, the endless worrying about the future, the exhausting habit of imagining every possible outcome before anything has even happened. And here is something even more surprising. For thousands of years, Buddhist monks have studied the human mind more deeply than perhaps anyone else on earth. They discovered that overthinking is not a sign of intelligence. It is not a sign that you are being responsible. In many cases, it is simply a habit that quietly steals your peace, your energy, and your ability to enjoy the present moment. What if 90% of your overthinking could begin to disappear by practicing a few simple habits? Not overnight, not through magic, but through ancient wisdom that has transformed countless lives. In today's video, you will discover 5 powerful monk habits that can help calm the mental noise, silence unnecessary worry, and bring your mind back to a place of clarity. And as you listen, I invite you to stay until the very end because the final affirmation sequence may become one of the most powerful mental resets you ever experience. Let's begin. Many people believe their biggest problem is uncertainty. But uncertainty is not the real enemy. The real enemy is what the mind does with uncertainty. Imagine standing at the edge of a foggy path. You cannot see the entire road. Ahead, a peaceful mind says, take the next step. An overthinking mind says, what if I choose wrong? What if I fail? What if something terrible happens? What if I regret it forever? Suddenly, the journey has not even started. Yet exhaustion has already arrived. This is the trap. Millions of people live inside every day. They replay conversations that happened years ago. They worry about events that may never occur. They create hundreds of imaginary scenarios and then suffer emotionally as if those scenarios are real. Does this sound familiar? Perhaps you've experienced moments when your body was sitting safely in a room, yet your mind was running through endless battles. The monks understood something profound. The mind can become addicted to thinking, not because thinking feels good, but because thinking creates the illusion of control. The mind whispers, if I think about this enough, I can prevent pain. Yet often the opposite happens. The more we think, the more trapped we become, and this realization leads us directly to the first monk habit. A young student once asked an elderly monk, how do I stop negative thoughts? The monk smiled and replied, why would you stop clouds from moving across the sky? The student looked confused. The monk continued, your thoughts are clouds. You are the sky. This simple lesson contains extraordinary wisdom. Most people believe they are their thoughts. When anxiety appears, they become anxious. When fear appears, they become fearful. When doubt appears, they become doubtful. But monks train themselves differently. They learn to observe thoughts rather than identify with them. Imagine sitting beside a river. Leaves float past on the water. Some leaves are beautiful. Some are damaged. Some are large. Some are small. Do you jump into the river to chase every leaf? Of course not. You simply watch them pass. Thoughts work the same way. A thought enters your mind. I am not good enough. Instead of believing it immediately, simply notice it. A thought appears. What if everything goes wrong? Notice it, observe it, allow it to pass. The goal is not to force thoughts away. The goal is to stop giving every thought authority over your emotions. This single shift changes everything, because the moment you realize you are the observer, not the thought itself, you reclaim your freedom, and every time an anxious thought appears today, try saying quietly to yourself, I notice this thought. Not, I am this thought, just I notice it. That small difference can create enormous inner peace. Now let's go deeper. Once a monk learns to observe thoughts, another question naturally arises. How do they return to the present moment when the mind starts racing? The answer is surprisingly simple. The breath. Most people underestimate breathing because it seems ordinary. Yet monks have used conscious breathing for centuries as a doorway into peace. Why? Because your breath always exists in the present moment. Your worries live in the future. Your regrets live in the past. But your breath exists right here, right now. Notice your breathing for a moment without changing anything. Simply notice it. Air entering, air leaving. A gentle rhythm that has been with you since the day you were born. The mind may wander. That's okay. Bring your attention back again and again. Each return is a victory. Each return strengthens your awareness. Each return weakens the grip of overthinking. The monk understands something powerful. Peace is not found by solving every thought. Peace is found by returning to the present, and the breath is the bridge that takes you there. One of the greatest causes of overthinking is the desire to know everything before taking action. Often have you delayed a decision because you wanted absolute certainty? How often have you searched for one more answer, one more opinion, one more sign? The mind says, once I know everything, I'll feel safe. But life doesn't work that way. No one knows everything. No one can predict every outcome. No one can eliminate all uncertainty. Monks understand that uncertainty is not a problem to solve. It is a reality to accept. Imagine trying to control the weather. Wouldn't that be exhausting? Yet many people spend years trying to control the future in exactly the same way. The future remains unknowable, and still they worry. The future remains uncertain, and still they worry. The future remains beyond complete control, and still they worry. At some point, wisdom asks a different question. What if peace comes not from controlling uncertainty, but from becoming comfortable with it? This habit transformed the lives of countless monks. Instead of demanding guarantees from life, they learned to trust the process, not blindly, not recklessly, but calmly, patiently. They took the next step without needing to see the entire staircase. And perhaps that is exactly what you need to hear today. You do not need every answer before moving forward. You only need enough clarity to take the next step. Then the next. Life often reveals itself one step at a time. Before we continue to the next monk habit, I want to guide you through a brief exercise. If possible, relax your shoulders. Release any tension in your jaw. Take a slow breath in and a slow breath out. Now imagine you are standing beside a quiet lake at sunrise. The surface of the water reflects the sky. Everything is still. Everything is calm. Now imagine each thought as a ripple appearing on the water. A worry appears. Ripple, a fear appears. Ripple, a memory appears. Ripple. Notice something important. The lake never fights the ripples. It simply allows them to come and go. Your mind can do the same. You do not have to wrestle every thought. You do not have to solve every worry. You do not have to carry every mental burden. For the next few moments, simply observe, breathe, notice, allow, and silently repeat. I release what I cannot control. I trust this moment. My mind is becoming quieter. I am safe in the present. Take one more slow breath and return your attention to these words. How do you feel? Perhaps not completely transformed, but maybe a little lighter. Maybe a little calmer. And that is how real change begins. Not through dramatic breakthroughs, but through small moments of awareness repeated consistently over time. In the next section, we will explore another powerful monk habit that helps dissolve mental chaos at its source and teaches why simplifying your attention may be one of the fastest ways to stop overthinking. A traveler once visited a remote monastery hidden among the mountains. As he watched the monks throughout the day, he noticed something unusual. When they drank tea, they only drank tea. When they swept the floor, they only swept the floor. When they walked, they simply walked. There was no rushing, no multitasking, no constant switching between one thought and another. Curious, the traveler asked an old monk, "What is the secret to your peace?" The monk smiled and replied, "When we walk, we walk. When we eat, we eat. When we listen, we listen. At first, this answer sounds almost too simple. But think about your own life. How often are you doing one thing while thinking about 10 others? Your body may be eating dinner while your mind is replaying yesterday's mistakes. Your body may be working while your mind is worrying about next month. Your body may be sitting with loved ones while your mind is trapped somewhere else entirely. This constant division of attention creates mental noise, and mental noise fuels overthinking. Monks understand that attention is one of the most valuable forms of energy. Every time you scatter your attention, you weaken your sense of presence. Every time you focus completely on one thing, you strengthen your peace. Today, try a simple experiment. Choose one activity. Drinking coffee, taking a walk, washing dishes, whatever it may be. And for 5 minutes, give that activity your complete attention. Notice the sounds. Notice the sensations. Notice the experience itself. You may be surprised how quickly the mind begins to quiet down, because the present moment has something overthinking can never offer. Reality. And reality is often much more peaceful than the stories we create in our heads. There is a reason so many people struggle with overthinking today. The modern world rewards distraction. Every notification demands attention. Every headline demands concern. Every opinion demands a reaction. The mind rarely gets a chance to rest. Imagine carrying a backpack. At first it feels light. Then someone adds another stone, and another, and another. Eventually the weight becomes exhausting. Many people are carrying a mental backpack filled with unnecessary information, problems that are not theirs, arguments that do not matter, predictions that may never happen, and all of it creates inner clutter. Monks have long understood that what enters the mind influences the quality of the mind. Just as unhealthy food affects the body, unhealthy mental input affects consciousness. This does not mean avoiding reality. It means becoming intentional. Ask yourself, what am I feeding my mind every day? Fear, comparison, negativity, endless noise or wisdom, stillness, perspective. Peace begins when you become selective about what deserves your attention. Not everything deserves access to your mind. Not every thought deserves your belief. Not every distraction deserves your energy. And once you understand this, the next habit becomes incredibly powerful. One of the greatest fears many people have is silence. The moment everything becomes quiet, they reach for a phone, turn on music, open social media, start another task. Anything to avoid stillness. But monks see silence differently. They see it as medicine. Imagine a muddy glass of water. If you keep shaking it, the water remains cloudy. But if you place it down and leave it alone, what happens? The mud naturally settles. The water becomes clear. Your mind works the same way. Many people believe they need to force clarity. Monks understand that clarity often appears naturally when the mind becomes still. This is why silence is so powerful, not because silence magically removes problems, but because silence allows wisdom to emerge. Even 5 minutes of intentional silence each day can create remarkable shifts. Sit quietly. Observe your breathing. Allow thoughts to come and go. Do nothing. Fix nothing. Control nothing. Simply be present. At first it may feel uncomfortable. That is normal. The mind has spent years running. It may not know how to stop immediately, but gradually something beautiful begins to happen. The inner noise softens. The mental fog lifts, and beneath all the chaos you discover something that was always there, a deeper sense of peace. There is an ancient story about a monk traveling through the mountains. One evening, a powerful storm arrived. The winds howled, the rain poured relentlessly, the trees bent under the force of the storm. Nearby villagers panicked. They feared destruction. They feared uncertainty. They feared what might happen next. Yet when they looked toward the monastery, they found the monk sitting peacefully beside a lantern. A villager asked him, "How can you remain calm when everything around us is so chaotic?" The monk replied. "The storm is outside. Why would I allow it to live inside me too?" Those words contain extraordinary wisdom. Life will always have storms. Financial storms, relationship storms, health storms, moments of uncertainty, moments of change, moments of fear. The goal is not to eliminate every storm. The goal is to stop carrying the storm within your mind long after it arrives. Overthinking often means living through the storm 1,000 times. Monks choose a different path. They face reality directly, but they refuse to suffer unnecessarily through imagined versions of reality. And that distinction changes everything. Many people who study manifestation make one critical mistake. They believe manifestation requires constant mental effort, constant analysis, constant checking, constant worrying about results. But think about it. How can abundance flow into a mind filled entirely with fear? How can clarity emerge from constant mental chaos? The teachings of mindfulness suggest something important. Your energy follows your attention. If your attention is constantly focused on problems, your emotional experience becomes dominated by problems. If your attention is focused on possibility, gratitude, and purposeful action, your emotional experience begins to shift. This is not about pretending difficulties do not exist. It is about refusing to let fear dominate your inner world. Monks understand that peace creates space, and in that space, better decisions become possible. Creativity becomes possible. Insight becomes possible. Hope becomes possible. Many of the answers you seek cannot be forced. They arrive when the mind becomes quiet enough to hear them.